You said a reminder that I raised $210 million from private equity wearing see-through crop tops and my hair looked like this.
I've gotten asked to leave banks.
No shit.
Yeah, like I went in with a crop top and it's like, ma'am, you need a shirt. I'm like, well, this is a shirt. It's just not a long shirt.
Yeah, it's just not.
And I'm like, it actually costs more than a long shirt.
Welcome to the first episode of Making It with Jess Ekstrom, where we tell the real stories behind going for it. Today's guest is a speaker and visionary entrepreneur who has mastered the art of building and exiting massive companies on her own terms. Anne Mahlum is the founder of Solidcore, which kicks my ass every time I'm in that studio. And she didn't raise $210 million from private equity by trying to fit into a corporate mold. She did it her way, famously walking into high-stakes meetings in see-through crop tops with a refusal to be anything but herself. In this episode, we go behind the scenes of her $100 million exit, discussing the grit required to move from a, quote, one-hit wonder to a fitness mogul. We talk about why high-performing founders are often fueled by early pain. We talk about the radical responsibility it takes to win and how she navigates the biological and relational shifts of entering her next big chapter, motherhood. So let's start at the beginning with a reminder that you don't have to change who you are to get a seat at the table. Of course, like seeing you from afar, you're like, oh, this woman has it all figured out. She has always like been able to just carve her seat out at the table. And then I saw this post that you did. And for anyone watching, I will put it up here. And you said a reminder that I raised $210 million from private equity wearing see-through crop tops and my hair looked like this.
Yeah.
Was that like, you're like, I just always knew who I was and I'm not changing to like be a part of this, but like, just tell me how you've been you throughout this whole journey.
Yeah. Well, I think enough evidence of being who I was and people remembering me.
Yeah.
You know, the whole like fake it till you make it or try to fit in. And I know that a lot of us feel that pressure a lot, especially as women. And I just always found it worked in my favor. Like people be like, I've seen you before. I remember you. I remember when
memorable.
when I cut my hair off when I was 30, Jess. I mean, this was 15 years ago. And nobody my age had short hair. Like I had really short hair. And so it always just made people pay attention.
Yeah.
And realizing, oh, that's interesting. This is actually a superpower. And so, you know, when I started to feel comfortable in my body wearing crop tops, like people pay attention. So I'm like, why would I change that when I go meet private equity partners? Like, this is who I am and how I've built my brand and my company. I'm going to show them who that girl is.
Did you ever have people who doubted you because of that or tried to tell you to like tone it down? I remember when I was just getting started as a speaker, you know, I was speaking, my first company had Bands of Hope. And so I'd always wear these like sparkly headbands. And I remember going to this gig and this guy was like, I didn't know we were supposed to wear our tiaras, and just like kind of giving me shit for it. And I was in my 20s, I was really insecure at the time, but it was like reason for me, like I shouldn't be here, or who do I think that I am? Did you ever have any moments where people were like, hey, like, wear something, you know?
Yeah, of course. I mean, I've gotten asked to leave banks.
No shit.
Yeah, like I went in with a crop top and it's like, ma'am, you need a shirt. I'm like, well, this is a shirt. It's just not a long shirt.
Yeah, it's just not.
You know? And I'm like, it actually costs more than a long shirt. You know, and then I've got asked to leave gyms when I've been in a sports bra and my nipples have been sticking out. And so, I've always just been like, no, like that girl's in a sports bra.
Yeah.
Or like, I don't really think I need to leave it as a shirt. And so I've just always kind of advocated for myself and felt comfortable.
Yeah.
But people I'm pregnant, as you can see. And I was back in North Dakota and I was like walking around with my belly out. My brother's like, oh my God, Anne, like you need to put something on. I'm like, no, no, I'm not.
I can see now you have all of the evidence to be confident, like your exit from Solidcore, your speaking career, like how you like help people become financially literate. You have the whole just resume that people would kill to have. But how did you have confidence before that?
I didn't want to be someone that I'm not, right? Mm-hmm. That makes you actually unconfident when you're trying to, again, fit in this mold. That makes you feel like you're trying to be somebody that you're not. And then you start to question yourself and feel smaller. Yeah. So I just have always, my 3 values that Brene Brown has this great exercise that you do. You've got to pick these values. And if you don't know it, you can just Google it. And she forces you out of all of these words. And you want to like pick 50 of them because you're like, oh, I'm that, I'm that, I'm that. And she really thinks through like, okay, when times have been difficult, whatever. And my 3 words are authenticity, transparency, and winning. No matter if things are good or bad, I always sort of gravitated to those are the values that I have. Yeah. And I feel good about who I am when I am showing all of those things on any given day. So, I think you could go ask a private equity partner, a back on my feet member, a college friend, my wealth advisor to be like, tell me about Anne. And they would all tell you, like, describe me in the same manner. And I'm proud of that.
And you are who you are. You're not the chameleon that changes for other people.
Right.
So tell me like the uncensored version of Solidcore. I mean, you had this idea, you opened up your first studio in DC, I think it was. Like, what's maybe the version that people don't hear or can't like always find about you? Is there anything that you just, Yeah, I think I, like a lot of entrepreneurs who really are successful, a lot of that is fueled by pain and wanting to prove yourself. And I remember slamming the door on my girlfriends in high school when I was talking about my big dreams and all the things I was going to accomplish. And they were kind of like making fun of me a little bit of like, who do you think you are, Yeah. And I literally got out of the car in February and like slammed the door and walked home. And I think that there is, whenever I invest in a founder, I want to know their story. There's one of my founders that I'm invested in his company. His dad left when he was born. He's never met his dad. And like, there's a chip on his shoulder from that, right? And he's sort of always felt abandonment issues of like, I wasn't good enough to stick around for. That's work he's got to do on the inside, but that makes a really great entrepreneur because you want to prove yourself in such a way that you are worthy. And I remember feeling when I was a kid, like I outperformed my brother and sister all the time. I got better grades. I played varsity sports. Like I was doing more extracurricular activities, better grades. I mean, all these things. And my parents didn't love me more than they loved them. And I was so annoyed. And I'm like, oh, I need to go work harder and perform more. Yeah. I really wanted, it was out of love, which again, I think if you'll find a lot of entrepreneurs. So I have those same tendencies also. And frankly, people tell you don't associate achievement with love. I can say that now after all of my achievements. I think I would still feel the same way, Jess, if I didn't have the amount of success that I've had. And now I feel like I have nothing to prove because my track record speaks for itself. I think that's so interesting about the entrepreneur you're investing in, your personal story. Mine is very similar where like that hustle muscle activated for approval. My parents, I don't know if you know this, but my mom's uncle's Bernie Madoff.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. And so we had this very public scandal in my family. I was in high school. I didn't really have big dreams. And then that happened. And I was like, I'm going to make something of myself. Yeah. And I'm going to make something of myself to almost like fill this void. Yep. And it worked. Like I was delusional in this hustle. I'm like getting emotional right now until like, I realized that there was never going to be enough that would like fill that void. And I needed to stop. My parents were proud of me. They were proud of me before I started anything. Like, but I just kept thinking, I need one more thing that's going to like erase this family history. Yeah.
And no one can tell you that. Like when I try to give that advice, it doesn't matter. They have to go through it themselves. You need to climb to the mountain, get to the top of whatever your mountain is, be up there and be like, tomorrow goes on like every other, and people move on from your success or your moment. Just like when I sold Solidcore,
Yeah.
you know, it's like people move on to the next thing and like it happens pretty quickly.
What did that feel like? $100 million hit your bank account. Then what?
It honestly felt amazing.
Yeah.
And I spoke last night at an entrepreneur event about this, and I opened up asking, have you guys ever thought about what your last day at your company is going to look like and feel like? And this was 100 entrepreneurs, and like 3 raised their hands. And then I paused and I'm like, well, now are you guys thinking about it? And they're like, yeah. And I'm
Now
like,
I'm thinking about it.
Yeah, but I'm like, are you going to be pushed out? Are you going to be asked to leave? Are you going to be escorted out? Are you going to have to do an earn out? Are you going to be in charge of that last day and have it be celebratory and on your terms? And did you plan it? And Jess, I planned that day, and it happened exactly as I can imagine. I got to share millions with my team. They all knew, as I mentioned, transparency is one of my values. I was very honest about them throughout the years that I'm building this company. At some point, I will sell it because at some point, it's going to be time for me to move on. So no one was shocked. Nobody felt like, what's going to be next? What happens to us? I succession planned. And so it was a like celebratory. People were proud of me. It was like Anne did what she said she was going to do. We had cake. We had a party. I turned in my office key. All that stuff. And it was like, I'm rooting for you guys. I'm here if you need me, but there was no earn out. I sold all of my shares and I got to have this beautiful exit that wasn't messy. And a lot of times we end up closing chapters in our life out of frustration, out of, I can't handle it anymore. I just want to move on. And it has to be a terrible ending. And one of the things I speak about and am really passionate about is having happy endings to chapters so that we can move on in a way that feels good for us before the messiness starts.
Yeah. Like end on, like leave the party before you get too drunk.
Seriously.
Before it gets weird. Now, what was that like for you after the celebration, after turning in your key? Okay, now I have a pretty amazing amount of wealth. How did that impact your motivation? Because some people would be like, cool, I'm good. And then you have consistently remained like an active player. So what was that like?
Well, it's changed, right? A lot of people are like, when's the next company? When are you going to start this next company? And I'm like, I don't see that in my foreseeable future. I will never say never. I am an entrepreneur through and through, and I love the beginning stages of creating.
Same.
And from when I started back on my feet to Solidcore, my transition was like 2 to 3 months when I left back on my feet to opening Solidcore. Because I felt like I didn't want to be a one-hit wonder. I had a lot in me to still prove. And now, Jess, it's like, I know too much. I know building a company like Solidcore, I loved every minute of it, but you have to give, all of you. And I did that willingly. No one forced me to. I wouldn't have rather spent those 9.5 years of my life doing anything else. And now I'm elevated in a position where I tell people I'm like professionally single and not looking to mingle. And I choose things like,
I love that.
People want me to advise for them for like 6 months or a year. And I'm like, no, you can book one advisory call.
Yeah, one
it's
call.
50 minutes.
Yeah.
We'll take it from there. And if I like working with you, you can book another call.
Totally.
Speaking, as you know, is like, I get to go in, I get to speak for an hour, hopefully empower, educate, help people think differently and give them advice that's going to really help them in some way in life or business. And then I get to go home. So I'm sort of in this short-term one-night stand.
Anti-cuffing season.
Yes,
I
and
totally
it feels
get
really
that.
good.
Yeah. Was there anything, I mean, I think that the money side of this is interesting because like people just think, well, if only I can get like that amount of money, then that's it. Like, was there, first, did you buy anything after that that you like really wanted? Like just as,
Yes. So I took money off the table before this big exit. I had about $15 million I took off the table before that. And my advice to entrepreneurs is always like, don't be a starving founder because all the private equity folks will try to convince you to not take money off the table. You know, they want you in a position of like, I have to get this to the exit. But then you devalue yourself when you get there. And, I know I would have sold for less if I didn't have that nest egg sitting there. So I was in a position of leverage of like, I don't need to sell this. So I actually got $10 million more at my exit than I would have if I wasn't sitting in a place of financial security, because I knew my number was 100 million and I wasn't selling for less than that. So after that, when the game was over and I knew there wasn't like a huge another check coming, I did a lot of work on my money mindset. I've always been very fascinated with people's and my own relationship with money. And one of the things I pushed myself on is raising my giving, expensive, and gifting ceiling, right? So if I always ask people, is $5,000 a lot of money? And some people be like, yeah. And I'm like, I didn't even ask you what it was for.
Right, yeah.
Or like, and 10 years ago was 5,000 a lot of money. And I think if you're not increasing that number, you're doing yourself a little bit of a disservice if you're making a lot more money now than then, because you stay in the scarcity mindset.
Totally.
And so I owed it to myself to say, if I want to have bigger impact, I'm going to have to decide, can I make $1 million donation? I've never done that before. What's that going to feel like? So I did that. I'm going to go buy a baby blue Bentley, which cost me $288,000. I don't regret that at all.
Yeah, do it.
Some art was like, I bought 2 pieces of art, $150,000 each. I love it. They make my house look beautiful. People comment. They make me happy. Other people happy. But like handbags,
not for you.
And I never had one before.
Yeah.
Even though I could afford one before. Yeah. I went out and I bought one. I bought 2. I bought whatever. And I'm like, this does nothing. I'll never buy another one. I'll frankly probably give them away because they have no meaning or value to me. Yeah. So you have to figure out exactly what's valuable to you, and then what is, like, increase the amount.
I remember like after Simone Biles finished the Olympics and she like posted that she got some really nice handbag and people were giving her so much shit. They're like, you have, you could have donated this, da, 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 da. And I'm like, women get so much flack around
how they spend their
money, how much money they make, how they talk about money, which is one of the reasons why I love following you so much, is because you are so giving in your knowledge about money and also shameless about talking about it. And speaking of, I didn't tell you we were doing this, but we have a question from a fan of yours. And so I'm going to let you listen to it. Okay. And you can hit play on the video right there.
Okay, cute. This is fun.
Hi, Anne. My name is Jackie Budrick, and I am the founder of Chicks Who Lift. Our mission is to empower women in and out of the weight room. So essentially, my question for you is, how are you able to take your passion and truly monetize it and make a full career out of it? Thank you.
And when I talk to, you're good. When I talk to Jackie, it's like, I think a lot of women have ideas, but then feel weird about charging. Which is not, the, like, I don't think a man thinks twice about being like, this is the fee. So someone who maybe has ideas, but like, how do I actually make it a business?
Yeah.
What do you say to that?
Yeah, you have to. So it's 2 components, right? You have to ask yourself, what are my talents and skill sets that I am better at than the majority of people? And I tell people to do this exercise, Jess, where we all have things we're good at and things we're bad at. And anything you're a 1 or a 2 or a 3 at, I'm like, just let it go. Yeah. Because if you work really hard, like swimming for me, like I'm just not a fast swimmer. Yeah. I've done triathlons, I've taken lessons. I may have gotten to a 4 or 5, but like I'm never going to win a race.
Right. So beach volleyball, on the other hand, you are a killer.
Yeah. Right. So I just let that go. The things where you're like a 7, 8, and a 9 at, spend time sharpening that axe, because that's what's going to put you in a position to be successful. And then you have to find a game you can win. So for me, I build high quality branded experiences better than most people, better than 99% of people. Both Back on My Feet and Solidcore were about community, were about experience, consistent experience that made people feel something positive that they wanted to come back. And so when I chose Solidcore, after Back on My Feet, that this was going to be the game I was going to play, I chose it because 1, it was authentic to who I was. This workout that I had discovered, I'm like, nobody knows about this, and nobody has built a community-based brand about it, and nobody's scaled it. All of those things I know how to do. And I want women to feel as strong and healthy as I do from this workout that I'm going to put my own special twist on. So because the company was going to be brick and mortar, I knew I could open 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Again, I knew my abilities from an execution standpoint to scale it. So all of these things married up to put me in a position to use my skill sets to play a game that I could win that was authentic to who I was.
And was there ever a time, like whether it's Back on My Feet or Solidcore, where you were like, I don't know if I can do this? Like just a time that you maybe didn't want to like give up, but felt like this might just be too hard?
No. And I know everybody wants you to say yes, but I'll tell you two moments where you would think it would have been. One, when I was putting all my money into Solidcore in the beginning, it was $175,000 that I had saved over 6 years. And again, I was having doubts of like, is this stupid? Because everybody was telling me it was stupid. My accountant was like, Anne, gyms have one of the highest failure rates out of any business. And I'm like, it's a studio, not a gym. But still, you know, it was just like all these people want to put these doubts that like you're putting all of your money on red.
Yeah.
And so I got an offer for $75,000 for 30% of Solidcore before I even had a studio open. And I was like, ooh, you know, that's a lot of money. Maybe that would be smart for me just to diversify a bit, park this money over here. And if Solidcore doesn't work out, at least I didn't put all my money in. And as soon as I uttered those words, Jess, it was like, I'm putting a quarter in the doubt jar. And once you do that, that doubt jar remains open. And I knew when things got hard at Solidcore, if I had an out, you start to lean into the out. You start to be like, gosh, I was so smart to not put all my money in it. And so I knew I had to turn that offer down. If I had all of the money to do this and I wasn't willing to bet on myself, then I shouldn't do it at all. So that was the beginning of Solidcore that really set my mindset right.
You dug your heels in the ground.
Yeah. And then and then things did get hard. First year and a half, I got sued by an ex-boyfriend for equity in my business who wanted half of the business. I got sued by my machine manufacturer, who I left to start my own machines. And I got evicted from my first studio.
Shut up.
Yeah, but I didn't have any other option. I was all in and like I didn't have a plan B. And obviously I saw the potential of this business. So I fought and I feel like I won all of those battles. I got through them all. And then of course, COVID, right? Where you never planned for revenue projections to go to zero.
Right.
And that happened.
You never planned for the world to shut down.
Right. And it obviously we all can remember happened so fast. And even that day when I had to lay all my staff off, I remember looking them all in the eye, you know, in the office and on Zoom of like, this is not taking this from us. Whatever this is, there will be winners and there will be losers. And my value is winning. Yeah. And we are going to get through this and I will be transparent through the entire process, but I'm going to tell you what my goal is right now. My goal is to make sure that this company is around after this and that you guys have a job to come back to. So every decision I make will be in support of that. I cannot pay you right now. Yeah. I'm not going to deplete all of our $2.5 million in our bank account and then we have nothing to reopen. That will be the end of this company. And that's not the ending any of us deserve. Yeah. And reminded them that when there is a crisis, Anne Mahlum gets picked first. Like, trust me, I got you. It's going to be bumpy. Get your seatbelt on, but we will get through this.
Yeah. And I think one of the things that, like, when I hear you, also, let me just say, none of the things you said were what I thought you were going to say about the times you want to give up. I thought you were going to say your jet ski accident.
Oh, funny. Yeah.
Which that was, and maybe we can get to that, but like when I saw that on your feed, I was like, holy shit, this woman's like been through it.
Yeah.
That was a lot. But one of the things I wanted to touch on is being you are such a strong individual and you're also in a compatible relationship with your husband. And I saw you talk about this once and I was like, oh, I'd love to talk about this because usually, you know, when like the old way of thinking of relational dynamics is like the woman needs a man and, you know, being taken care of. And then you're like, well, I have a lot of strength and a lot to offer and I can do things myself. And I feel like I did that like with my husband, where I almost wasn't letting him take care of me, because you have this drive that you're like, I can do it myself. And it's like, no, I know you can, but let me. And so you've been open about your relationship, but what is it like kind of settling into a partnership when you're such a driven individual?
Well, I've had my fair share of relationships, for one. So, I feel
Let's
like
go through all of them right now.
Yeah,
No,
how long is this podcast? So I felt like I really knew what I was looking for.
Yeah.
When I met Brett, and I also knew the space that I needed to create for somebody that I was looking for. And I had to take some responsibility there, because I did have that, you just need to be strong enough to handle me. And I was absorbing all of the masculine energy in the room, that there was none left for the man to take care of me, even if he wanted to. So I needed to, and I also felt like a little bit maybe choosing the wrong personality trait. The one of the guys I was with for a while was very amenable, and that doesn't work with me. If you're amenable all the time, like, I'll walk all over you. I need you to stand your ground a little bit.
Amenable, refresh my memory, means just like yes to everything.
Yes
kind of
to
thing.
everything.
Okay, yeah.
And he would defer to me because I made more money.
Yes,
I was more successful. And he was just so fixated on like, well, you make all the money, so you get to decide. So you get, and I'm just like, I want you to, I want you to
decide,
lead.
have an opinion.
Right. And I want you to step in and have the confidence and security. So Brett did his own work on this, and he speaks eloquently about, listen, if I try to compete with Anne, especially on the financial provider sense, it's a game I'm going to lose, and we might as well not date.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to be able to provide for her in that sense, but how else can I provide, in ways that is going to make her feel like she can be in her feminine around me? And what women, I believe, who are heterosexual, I don't know if you've ever read the book Intimate Communion. It's really good. It talks about this polarity that is needed, and 90% of relationships, heterosexual female-male relationships, need to have the feminine and masculine polarity. And I always sort of rejected that, and 50-50, and you were equal, and that just didn't work for me. So Brett and I split certain roles that feel good for both of us, and we handle those roles 100% of the time for the most part. Silly little examples, Jess, but like, Brett always drives. It's a way that he feels like he's protecting against everybody else on the road. Unless he doesn't want to drive, he drives. He shuts down our house at night and sets the alarm, makes sure all the doors are closed. It's a way of protection and safety. When we are sitting in a restaurant and, he sees my water glass is empty, he makes sure that someone comes over and fills it before I have to ask for it. And again, that sounds small, but these microcosms of paying attention, noticing, he'll handle conflict with a contractor, so I don't have to do it.
That make a partnership.
Right.
But I agree with you where I think especially, and I'm really excited for your next chapter of parenthood, but that became increasingly apparent to me where like the feminist in me was like 50-50, we're doing this together. Like, you might as well like start breastfeeding, like what, just so. And then when I had my daughter, I think I had a lot of like, my husband is such an active parent, but I just had a lot of anger for just the biology of what I was experiencing versus what he was experiencing. Yeah. And it's like not his fault that he doesn't.
Not his fault.
It didn't push a baby out of him, and that he's not peeing every time he coughs. Like, but I had to come to terms with like, yes, this is like I am breastfeeding this child and he can't. Like I'm not saying this eloquently right now, but I feel like I had parenthood for me helped me come to terms with some of these just like biological roles in a heterosexual relationship. And I think in that case, it also helped me relax a little bit and let him have his locking up the house, driving, like making some of these decisions. But it took a little bit because, as a ambitious woman and who is my husband works for my company now, but like the breadwinner, if you will, in the relationship, it was like really hard for me to settle into
I get that.
You know?
It is still very weird for me to look in the mirror and be like, gosh, like, because I was not somebody who was going to have kids regardless.
Yeah.
It was always partner dependent
Mm-hmm.
and situational dependent based off of where I was in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember Brett asking me that question of, do you want kids? And I'm like, it depends. And he's like, well, I don't really know if I want to be with somebody who doesn't want kids. And I'm like, let me ask you a question, Brett.
Yeah.
You know, let's just say you didn't meet a woman and you didn't get married by the time you got 40. Are you going to go have kids on your own? And he's like,
Yeah.
well, no. And I'm like, nobody asks the guy that.
Right.
But they always ask the women,
woman.
like, I'm doing it with her. Like, that's
Yeah.
how important it is to me. And I'm like, I don't have a desire to be a single mom.
Mm-hmm.
This is a partnership-based decision for me, for women who want to do that without, like, more power to you. It's the
Yes.
beautiful world that we live in.
Yeah.
That was not something I was willing to do.
Yeah.
So, and I've had partners in the past that didn't want kids. And I'm like, I can see my life with or without kids. Like, it doesn't, I was never as adamant as I was about being an entrepreneur or like,
Yeah.
I'm going to make impact with my life and build something. Kids were an option for me
Right.
if the situation was right.
And I think it goes to your abundance mindset of like, it's not, life doesn't have to be one specific way. It's like there's a ton of different ways that this could go well.
There's more than one right
There's more than
answer
one
is
right
one
answer.
of my mottos for sure.
So I want to end with you expanding on this post that I literally like want to plaster onto my wall. It says, the people who rise are all the same. They take radical responsibility for everything in their life. Broke, it's their fault. Unhealthy, it's their fault. Stalled career, it's their fault. Low energy, it's their fault. There's someone out there with the exact same set of circumstances as you that has chosen not to victimize themselves. Life will never be fair. Someone will always have it easier. But if you spend your time discrediting those people while doing nothing to put yourself in a position to win, you will continue to lose. The only person who owes you anything is yourself. I love this. It's a hard read though.
Oh,
you know,
I
it's a
got a lot of
hard
hate mail from that.
Oh, you did? Tell
Well,
me.
yeah, of course.
Yeah.
People just like, that's not true. You know, there are people who have cancer that I'm like, read the part where I said life isn't fair. Read the part where I'm like, I cannot give everybody the same amount of money, health, all of these things. But I do know there are people who have cancer that approach it with optimism and are going to show up one way. And there are people who want to blame the world and think that they get to be an asshole and whatever in the exact same situation. And I would go to bet that the person who chooses to look at life in a positive way is happier, has higher quality days than somebody who's just looking to blame and victimize no matter what. And that doesn't mean that you can't have sympathy for people. But just like if I were to walk out of this studio, you know, and get in an accident and lose my arm, do I just give up, you know, on everything else because I don't have an arm anymore? No, I'm going to figure out a way to make my life great
Yes.
in some way or another.
I think like being able to say it's on me, good or bad,
Right.
it's on me. And I know you're an avid beach volleyball player. I played a little volleyball back in the day.
Yeah.
And I remember this coach said, like, anytime you lose a point, be the first to say that was on me.
Yeah.
Even if you didn't miss the like set or whatever, but it just has a way of like clearing the slate, bringing the team together and not being afraid to own it. Yeah.
But you know what it does, Jess, is it keeps your power. When you say it's not my fault or I didn't choose this, you disempower yourself to do anything about it.
Because you're saying someone else can have that
Right.
impact on me.
Right.
Yeah.
So if things were different, if blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And I have a family member who I was witnessing constantly discredits the people who were successful in this family or around. And I'm just like, that is the most, I'm like, I'm going to call you out on that because this is really dangerous. You keep, oh, well, if I had this, I could do this too. Well, if I had XYZ. And I'm like, your life is set up to be long and miserable if you keep doing that. And I'm like, I like wrote him a long email about it. I'm like, you need to be proud and say, what can I learn from those folks who are doing really well? And how do I put myself in a position to also do that? And what am I not doing enough of? You know, I just like, again, life isn't fair, and I understand the statistics, racially, gender, all of those things. But I will never look at somebody and be like, yeah, statistically, you're never going to make it.
Mm-hmm.
I will look and say, you may have a different starting point than other people, but you can make it if you want to.
Yes.
I will choose to lift you up. I will choose to challenge you to work hard, to find your strengths and advantages, and put yourself in a position that your life's going to be great.
And the opposite is true for me. Like, I think owning my privilege, I am white. I grew up in a very well-to-do family. My starting block to start my first company was a lot further along. And so even just having that awareness of the odds are stacked in my favor.
Right.
And some of the people that I invest in, I only invest in minority women-owned companies. I know the odds doesn't mean that I don't think that they're capable, but I know that if they didn't start at the same starting block, let's lend a helping hand.
Yeah. And I think too, it's important to say, Jess, you are in a position of privilege, and so am I. And you're smart, and you work hard.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean? It doesn't have to, otherwise every white woman would have $100 million.
100%.
You know what I mean?
You still have to put in the work.
It's recognizing the privilege, paying it forward in ways that you can.
Yeah.
And exactly
what do you do with it?
What do you do with it, and putting in the work that matters to you, of where you can make impact, that you're going to look back and be proud of the decisions that you made.
Last question, Anne. What does making it look like for you now?
I think it's the same, right? And it's putting my head on my pillow at night and being like, would I run that day back? You know, did I make decisions? Did I make impact? How kind was I to people today? Did I contribute? Did I give more than I took? And when we have days where we consume more than we participated, I think those days are dangerous. So I really reflect off my day and did I make decisions today that were good for me today and are good for me tomorrow?
Yes.
And it's as simple as that. It's not making it means you have to have $20 million, blah, blah, blah. It's a feeling.
Yeah.
And I think it's a feeling of, are you proud of who you are and how you showed up today? And are you doing that on a consistent basis?
Love it. Thank you for coming. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for listening to Making It with Jess Ekstrom. Make sure you're subscribed and leave a review if you're enjoying it. See you next time.